The Jamaican government is seeking to strengthen operating protocols and procedures of the Shiprider Agreement between the United States and Jamaica, under which both countries cooperate to curtail illicit maritime drug trafficking. The matter was placed under the spotlight at the last sitting of the Senate. The move follows an incident in October 2020, where 4 Jamaican men aboard the Jamaican-registered vessel Lady Lala were detained by U.S. authorities. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, explains.
We were advised that 4 Jamaican men were aboard the Jamaican-registered vessel when it was intercepted in October 2020 and its cargo inspected by the U.S. Coast Guard on the grounds of reasonable suspicion that the vessel was involved in illicit drug activities. Having tested and found that items aboard the vessel contained a type of narcotic drug or psychotropic substance as provided for under the agreement, the 4 Jamaicans were transferred to and detained on the attending U.S. Coast Guard vessel, and the Lady Lala was destroyed on the grounds of representing a danger to navigation pursuant to the provisions of the agreement, the UN Convention Against Illicit Drugs and Psychotropic Substances, as well as standard maritime practice.
Senator Johnson-Smith says the U.S. requested a waiver of jurisdiction over the vessel, its cargo, and the persons aboard. It was granted with certain conditions.
These were, 1, that the persons would only be charged with offenses pursuant to the agreement and that the government of Jamaica would be advised of those charges. 2, that the general welfare, including the physical and mental health of the detained persons, would be ensured. 3, that the detained persons would be permitted, should they so desire, to make contact with Jamaican consular officials. And 4, that the detained persons would have access to legal counsel in relation to any charges brought against them.
She says the charges were eventually dismissed.
On the 15th of December, the U.S. Southern District Court dismissed charges brought against the 4 Jamaican nationals on the grounds of lack of evidence. On the 28th of December, the ministry was made aware of the dismissal from media reports. The ministry immediately sought formal advice from the U.S. Embassy on the status of the case, and the U.S. Embassy subsequently confirmed the status of the matter and shared the relevant documents. Our attention immediately turned to ensuring that our nationals were returned home expeditiously. Having learned from our Consulate General in Miami that the 4 men were scheduled for repatriation on the 28th of January 2021 on the regular monthly flight for involuntary returnees, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade took immediate action through diplomatic communication with the U.S. Embassy to ensure the return of the 4 men to Jamaica no later than the 31st of December. Furthermore, we affirmed that in a context where the charges against the men had been dismissed, they should not be repatriated under order of deportation. In the interim, the Jamaican Consulate General in Miami was instructed by us to prepare emergency travel documents to facilitate their return to Jamaica. The U.S. authorities fully cooperated in respect of that request, and the 4 nationals arrived in Jamaica early in the afternoon on the 31st of December 2020.
Senator Johnson notes that although the Shiprider Agreement is in place to fight crime, protection of the rights of Jamaicans abroad is a pillar of Jamaican foreign policy. She says in light of what occurred, improvements must be made to the agreement.
1, following boarding and search of intercepted vessels, and 2, relating to the status of nationals from the time of grant of the waiver up to the outcome of any legal or judicial action pursued against them, pursuant to the agreement. More particularly, the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and National Security and the Attorney General, supported by an interministerial technical team, met with a wide cross-section of senior U.S. officials on the 6th of January 2020 to further review the operational procedures associated with implementation of the agreement. The U.S. delegation comprised the Ambassador of the United States to Jamaica and senior embassy officials, senior officials of the U.S. Coast Guard, as well as representatives of the Departments of Justice and State. Mr. President, I must underscore that the Jamaican government expressed in very clear terms certain steps key to bridging gaps in implementation, as well as its strong disappointment at the recent developments, including the failure of the U.S. authorities to communicate critical information on the dismissal of the case as envisaged by the agreement. I'm pleased, however, to advise that the bilateral exchange was constructive and frank, and undertaken in a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. Apologies were extended to the Jamaican side by the United States regarding the handling of the matter.
Senator Johnson Smith says the U.S. should respond to the proposed improvements in 3 weeks.